Hi everyone, so this is Lizzie from with the Love from Lizzie April 2017 card kit, 10 cards, 1 kit video. In this video I'm just going to run through as many different kind of ideas as possible with the kit, just to give you some inspiration and ideas. So I split all 5 of my card bases lengthways, which is just over 4 inches wide, and then I'm folding them in half and then using my Teflon bone folder to get a nice good crisp fold. Okay, so diving straight in with card 1, I drew with a pencil around my card base on the back of a piece of patterned paper, and then with my scissors cut it out. You'll see a lot of me doing this with the 8x8 card paper, because I just don't like to waste it. And when you use your trimmer, it's fantastic for 6x6 papers, but I'm reluctant to waste any of the pretty papers. Okay, so I've just stuck that down with my broad-tipped Nuvo glue pen, and I've turned it over to the reverse to just trim off using a large pair of scissors, as I'm less likely to get the edges crooked that way. So yeah, using the actual card blank as a guideline as to where to cut, to make sure that I don't end up with any of the card base showing in the front. So now I have my card base with a backer on it, and I'm using a Mama Elephant circle die. I do use a couple of different die sets in this video. I do try to keep it to very basic dies though, so that if you're wanting to replicate, that hopefully you'll have something similar in your stash. Here I'm cutting just a short piece of the striped paper, just to create sort of like a little banner across the front of the card, using the Nuvo broad tip again, just to fix that down right onto the front. And then here I'm using these peel-offs. Now these peel-offs look like stitching, and this is sort of like the blanket stitch. I'm not sure if that's actually what it's called, but I think it's so very cute, and I'm not sure that the camera really picks it up well enough, which is a shame. But it looks like it's been sort of stitched onto there as a result. But these peel-offs, because obviously they're made in the UK, they are exactly half of the width of a card. So it's like a handy little tip. As long as you lay them down carefully, you will get 2 widths of a card from each strip of the peel off. And here I've just chosen a sticker from the sticker sheet that's in the kit, and I'm just using my EK Success powder tool to neutralise the stick on it, because I want to 3D mount it. And if you leave the sticky on the back, then if you post it, then potentially the stick from the sticker could attach onto the card, so it could make it crooked, and you just don't want to run the risk. So I've popped a little bit of foam tape on the back of that little tab, and using my tweezers so that I can keep my sausage fingers out of the way, I've seen where I want to place it, and I've just popped it down on the front there. So here I'm using the silver mirror, and I've snipped a little piece and then die cut the bunny using the die from the kit. And then using my foam tape here, I'm just making sure that all the little bits and pieces, like the face and the ears and the tail, are all very well supported, to make sure that when if this does go in the post, as I do intend for this particular card, that it doesn't crush down at all and maintains its shape well. So there, popping that in the little aperture that I made with the circle die, and then popping some glue. Now I did actually go back afterwards and use some Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish to attach the little cottontail, because I wanted it to stand up to the test of being posted. So that's the first card all finished. Here's the second card, and I had an idea for this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to explain it very well, so bear with me. But I used the spring die to create sort of a panel cut right down the front of the centre of the card, and then I lined it up on either side and butted it up again at the bottom, and there were some little pieces where I didn't lay it perfectly. And now this is the inside of the card. I've covered it in some double-sided tape. Now it was a little bit wide there, but I just trimmed it and then folded it back on itself. And now I'm laying some patterned paper on the inside of the card, using my bone folder to make sure that the fold is really good. I just give it a real good push down, and now using the edge of the card, I'm cutting the paper around the edge. So now that is my card front. So it's a little bit unusual, I suppose. And then I cut Spring from the Silver Miri, and I'm using my Nuvo drops here. And there is no rhyme or reason. All I'm doing is putting a dot in between the points, if that makes sense. So they're not perfect, they're just put on there. And then I'm 3D foam mounting the Spring sentiment. And then very carefully, because the Nuvo drops are still wet, I just place that towards the bottom right hand corner of the card. So that's card number 2. Here's card number 3. And again, here I am with my pencil, and then I'll cut that with my scissors, just to save the paper. And now I've stuck a little sticker on some of the silver foil card, and I've fussy cut around it. Not too fussy, I haven't gone crazy, just to leave it with a nice little border and give it some contrast to the backing, because they're quite similar colours. And using a smaller circle die from the same Mama Elephant set, I cut 3 circles out, and I did try to place them so that they weren't too regular, but I did lay the sticker on the front beforehand just to make sure I had the right spacing. And then I've covered the back in foam tape. Now this is tricky because obviously I've taken all the backing off here because I like to do things the most difficult way possible. Now what you do is you line up the bottom and stick that lightly, and then twist it on its side, and then line the side up. And using the craft mat makes it much easier. And then I've just gone around and trimmed the edges. And then using multi-medium in the matte finish, I've taken 3 of the little wooden shapes from within the kit, and I'm just attaching those into the centres of the circle. And again, I'm using my tweezer just so that I actually have the freedom to see where I'm placing them. And I'm sure that other glues would be fine for this. It's just that when it's not paper to paper or card to paper, I do like to use the multi-medium because I do know that it gives that extra firm hold. So they're all stuck down, and now I have my clear Zig Wink of Stella brush. I had to think about that there. And I just covered the top of all of the wood charms. And now I'm going over the top with some Ranger Glossy accents, just to give them some nice shine. And I foam mounted the little sentiment up, and that's the end of card 3. So here's card 4. Now, this little packet is designed to be bunting, and I'm sure there's plenty of bunting cards out there, and I'm sure I've made plenty of bunting cards, so I wanted to try and suggest something different. So here I've just grabbed a few of them in the different shapes within the bag, and I'm trying to randomly as I can lay them down, whilst keeping the same shape. So the top, the large pinked ones, and then the middle row I've got a straight edge, and then the bottom ones I've got a pinked edge again. So here I'm just gluing them down with my Nuvo medium tip, and I do pop up, I think perhaps 3 of the triangles on foam tape, just for a little variation. So there's one there. But I try not to do them in the centre, because when they're in the middle of the card it can look as though you're trying to be very regular. And as this card, although the lines are straight, they're at an angle. I did try to keep it as random as possible, but that does not come naturally to me. I do really enjoy having things in straight lines and where they should be. So anyway, I've finished gluing them all down, and I've turned the card over onto its reverse, and I've trimmed off the little pieces that were hanging over the edge. And here I'm just picking a little sentiment from the sticker sheet, and I'm using some of the yellow twine from the kit, and I just wrap that around the card twice on the angle as well. And then I put some extra multi-medium on the matte finish on the back of the sticker, just because I'm going to be sticking it on top of the twine, so I wanted to make sure it did have a good firm hold. So I fuss around a little bit, but I do get there, and then I stick it over the join just so that on the inside of the card as well it looks nice and tidy. And then I just pop a little bit of glue in on either end of the twine there, just to keep it still, because it's not at its tightest possible angle. And so onto the next card here, I'm using the little egg, the plain egg, and I stamp that out a series of time onto lots of different patterned papers, but all of the patterns that I use are small patterns. So I'm not using anything that's got too large a print that would get lost on the egg. And then I fussy cut them out, which is very nice and simple. And then I'm using my distress marker here, but you can use any black pen. But I do recommend that you hold the pen to the side that hasn't got the pattern in case your pen jerks. So here I'm carrying on with the Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink, and I'm just laying the Easter sentiment, which is what will be remaining there, and stamping eggs and the egg, just twisting it round and round so that it doesn't look too routine a pattern. And here I'm using a little sheet of grid to line up the Easter to make sure that it's straight, because after all the work of stamping the background, it's really upsetting when you get the sentiment wrong, and it's also why I use the Misty. And I inked it up a few times. To be honest, it was probably fine after the second, but I don't think you can ever have too many. And then using the Nouveau tip in a medium, I filled in all the eggs and then laid on the patterns, trying not to have two of the patterns side by side, and then turned over to the reverse and trimmed off the bits of the egg that were hanging over. Then using the Nouveau drops that came in the kit, I carefully, it doesn't look like it because this is sped up to 3 times the speed, I carefully sort of filled in the Easter, and because the drops have got such a fine tip, this wasn't actually anywhere near as difficult as I thought it may be, which is always pleasing. So, and the colour of the Nouveau drops matches beautifully with the papers, so it's worked well. And then I just went around and randomly spotted the dots in the background. And so that's the end of this card. Now on to card 6. And here I have cheated and added a little bit of white cardstock for a couple of these cards, and this is one of them. And I'm using the grid to line up 4 of the other eggs onto the front, slightly towards the top. And again using the Intense Black ink from Simon Says Stamp, I ink up the eggs. And then I've gone through using my Sunday Ornac colour chart, and I held up that sheet of pattern paper next to it, and I pulled some of my Copic markers in the coordinating colours. Now, I would have left it on there, but all I did was colour it in. There was no shading, I didn't do anything at all. I quite simply filled in the eggs with the colour. So, and there are still shots of all the cards at the end, as always, so you can have a better look at them. And so here I'm just cutting the piece of patterned paper so I can put a panel on, and it also ties all the colours to it. I've wrapped a piece of baker's twine and ribbon around the centre, and here I'm just popping some foam behind, and I'm not putting the foam over where the ribbon and the twine are, so to leave them a little bit of space for the sticking, as it were, so that there's not a lump. I'm not sure if that was explained very well either. I know what I mean though. And I much prefer, when tying a bow, to actually stick the ribbon down and then tie a bow around the ribbon. I find bows much easier to tie than when you're trying to actually connect the two pieces of the two ends together in a bow. So there's my little bow, and then I just remove the backing of the foam tape here and pop it up onto the front of the card. And then, as you can see, there is the Copic markers do come through the cardstock ever so slightly, which was why I wanted to do this on a separate panel rather than straight onto the card front. But then I do stick that down flat to the front, so it's white on white, which I think is very nice and clean when you've got so many colours on the eggs. And that's the end of that card. So here's card 7. Card 7, I had an idea in mind and it actually went completely off course, so you have to bear with me, I'm afraid. But I'm using the plain egg again, using the Intense Black ink, and that's my Lawn Fawn Stamp Chamois, which is lovely. I always used to use baby wipes, and I'm completely converted now. So, and here I have the feet. Now, I didn't pre-treat any of these stamps, which is why the Misty is such a great tool for this. And now I've got the Easter, and I've just placed that in the centre underneath. And on the note of the Misty, I'm really pleased to hear that my sweet Petunia has been successful with her claim. It's nice to hear that the little man has done well. And as you can see here, I had wanted to draw a chick, but I just changed my mind. I used the wrong pen, and so rather than throwing it away and starting all over, I just stamped the plain egg again onto some of the pattern paper, and using my scissors, fussy cut it out, went around the edge just to hide those white raw edges, and then stuck it in the middle. And because I'd obviously stamped it on the card base, it gives it a nice edged finish. And using 2 of my Copic markers, I do a little bit of shading here on the feet, but ever such a small amount. And I will list all of the colours of the pens that I use and all other products over on my blog. That will follow in the coming days. But I colour in the little feet, and then, as it had worked so well on the previous card, I used my Nuvo drops to fill in Easter. And my camera did stop recording, unfortunately, so all I did was wrap some twine around the bottom and then mount that up onto a card. But you'll see a still shot at the end. So here you've seen me use a small stitched rectangle, that's from Lawn Fawn, and cut some white card, and then I cut the bunny from the centre of that white card square. And then here I've used a larger stitched rectangle, square, apologies, and cut out some of the purple patterned paper. And here I'm foam mounting now this square which has had the bunny removed. I take off all of the little backing squares, and then using my tweezers place that into the centre. Now here I've put this into super slow motion because this is how I tie a bow if I'm not tying it onto anything. And that is, I make 2 loops and then I twist them around and create a loop at the bottom and poke the loop through the top and then just pull. And I don't pull it too hard so that I can readjust it without it creasing the ribbon too much. So you'll see me fuss around here for a little while because I am quite particular about my bows, but I am by no stretch an expert. So here we are back up to normal speed again now, which is, as for the rest of the video, is 3 times the usual speed. And then I just trim the tails of the ribbon and then try to decide which way up I want the bow to sit. Opt for what I thought I would use as the back as the front, pop some multi-medium in the matte finish and just pop it directly under the bunny. And then using a Kaiser black glitter pen, I just hand wrote baby with a little heart. Because obviously I do have a baby stamp, but I am trying to keep the supplies as minimal as possible. It's not bedtime, darling. Okay, and so here I'm using one of the leftover circles from an earlier card, and I've popped some foam tape up onto the back of it. And then here I'm using one of the different the peel-offs, and I'm using a blue Copic marker to colour the peel-off in. And I do put 2 layers on it, but this is the same blue as is the sticker that I've just neutralised with the EK Success powder tool. And then I pop a little foam tape on the reverse side of the sticker, and then I just place it into the middle of that circle. Now I've let the alcohol marker dry. Now you must be careful with these now because the straight ones you can be quite rough isn't the right word, but you know, you've got a bit of play with them. But these, if you pull them, they will stretch. They're like an accordion. So be ever so gentle when you're first pulling them up, and when you lay them down, try not to push them down too hard until you're happy with where they are. I thought I'd get away with a voiceover here, without any interruption. I was so close. But anyway, here we are. So I've just used the tail that was left over and just laid that on at the side, and then taken off the backing from the circle, using my tweezers, placed that down. And the sentiment actually says, bloom where you're planted. So I thought that little row of flowers was very sweet to have. And here I'm using Nuvo drops in like iridescent glitter, just in a random spray from the top left to the bottom right. And that's the end of card 9. So here's card 10. Now this is quite a long card, I'm afraid, but I had this in mind when I first put the kit together, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to do it because I won't fit it in my video, but I'm going anyway. I use glossy accents over the butterfly, and then I have laid some clear thread within the glossy accents, and I've set that to one side to let it dry. And here I am using my favourite of the pattern papers, which I was tempted to hoard, but instead I have decided to use, and again using a pencil, just marked over about 3/4 of the card. Use the pencil line, cut it out with my scissors, and then using the broad tip Nuvo pen, stick it onto the front of the card. Give it a nice firm press down, and then coat the bottom portion as well with Nuvo, and then I also put a little bit on the top of the patterned paper. Now using my grid mat, I line it up to make sure that the lines are straight, and now this way there is quite literally zero waste because it's just cutting it around the card front. Now here, this is a handy tip for using these non-stretchy peel-offs. If you lay the card where you want the peel-off to go, and then you just pull the peel-off back over to where it naturally wants to lay, then you're going to be able to get it pretty much in the right place. So I've just popped that down, and here I've used the same circle die that I used earlier, and I've just cut through the patterned paper and the card base with my die cutting machine. And here I'm just doing another square. This is that small square again, and I'm cutting the circle from the centre of the square, and I pop 3 little drops in the Nuvo on the front, and a tiny little sentiment sticker in the centre saying hello spring. Now this is a while later, where the glossy accents has actually dried on the butterfly, and because I laid the clear thread in whilst it was drying, that's now fixed in there. So I've opened the card up and I've laid the butterfly with the glossy accents and the thread facing me, and I'm popping 2 little bits of double-sided tape, which in hindsight I should have made more narrow to start with. Then using my grid mat, I've got the butterfly in the centre of the circle, take the backing off the double-sided tape, and then lay the thread into that double-sided tape. Now, had I have thought ahead and cut my tape beforehand, I wouldn't have had to do this, but all I did was a score line in the tape, and then it just sort of peeled out. So it wasn't a problem, but it's just easier if you want to replicate these cards to do the snipping first. And then with the stitched square and circle panel that I cut, just pop some Nuvo with the medium tip on the back, and then just covered over the threads and the sellotape, so it just looks a little bit finished on the inside. And then I popped some glossy accents on what is the front of the butterfly now, and I set that off to dry. And there is my 10th card. So I really hope that you like these cards. This is what I've got left over from the kit. There's obviously the Nuvo drops. There is a strip of ribbon. I didn't even touch the RAF, which was a bit of a letdown, or the pen. I put the pen in thinking that you could do lovely stitching lines with it, and of course didn't do that on any of my cards. There's still plenty of the little bunting, there's still the wooden snail, 4 pegs I didn't use, 4 of the tails I didn't use. These are some leftover pieces of die cutting that I have, and I can probably use in another project. Obviously you've got your dies, you've got your full-size stamp set ready for next year or for more cards, and there's still, I would say, at least 2/3 of the stickers left, if not more. There's the majority of the peel-offs. I only used 3 strips. A lot of the silver mirror card remains. And I didn't use a whole sheet of the patterned paper, so there's still plenty here that I've only had small portions cut from. And then there is 5 complete sheets that I didn't touch. And so here's the additional products and tools. So there's the trimmer, the Misty. I did use an extra sheet of cardstock. My Lawn Fawn stamp chamois, my Fiskars precision tool, 2 different size Nouveau glue pens, my EK Success powder tool, double-sided sellotape, some foam tape, my large scissors, some little foam squares, my Teflon bone folder, my non-stick scissors, my tweezers, the multi-medium and the matte finish, the glossy accents, a pencil, the Nouveau drops, the black glitter gel pen and the clear Wink of Stella, the distress marker in black soot, and then there's a selection of the Copics. And again, I just use ones that match to the pattern paper, so whatever you have, if you have Spectrum Noir or something else, would be great. Intense Black Ink by Simon Says Stamp, an acrylic block, a little pencil eraser, and then these are the 4 additional dies I use. I use 2 circle and 2 square with stitched finishes to them. So here are the still shots of all the cards. I really do hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for sticking with me till the end. A couple of updates. There are still card kits available in the shop. They will be there obviously until they sell out. So here we are. They're not in the same order that I made the cards, I'm afraid. Sorry guys. I've got some new video software, and so I'm trying to sort out the voiceover and get everything looking half decent at least. Something that I did want to mention briefly is in the shop there is a shipping option now called Card Kit Subscriber Add-on Only, and it's £6.50, and it's for those people that have subscribed to the card kit and that pay their shipping monthly, and if they want to make additional purchases that they're not charged extra shipping again. £6.50 I'm afraid isn't even half of what I pay to ship your kits over, so please don't select that unless you are a card kit subscriber, because I will have to follow it up with an email and we'll have to work a way of getting that additional shipping across to me. So I hope that makes sense, and any questions do let me know, but I will update the shop and the blog with posts shortly. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me. Take care, happy paper crafting. Thanks, bye.